Broadcasting. Okay. Hello, everyone. It is us, the Community Creatives. I'm Annika.
I'm Rick.
And I'm Ania Nicole.
So our topic is on Johari's window. So Johari's window is used to enhance individuals' perceptions of others and better relationships with others and yourself. So this model is based on two different ideas of how trust is acquired by revealing information about you and how much information you can reveal, but also learning about yourselves through others' feedbacks. So each person is represented by one Johari model, which has 4 quadrants, or in this case, I'm going to refer them as panes. So each pane signifies personal information, feelings, motivations, and whether or not information is known or unknown to oneself or others. So the 4 viewpoints of this model is open self, blind self, hidden self, and unknown self.
So the first one and the most straightforward is the open self. And the open self describes traits or features of yourself that you know and other people know. So this is kind of the pane where there are no secrets. And yeah, like I said, it's the most straightforward. For me, some examples. For the way I communicate, you can't really see it in this video, but normally I talk with my hands a lot. And this is something that I'm completely aware of. And I mean, it's very visual, so everyone I talk to can obviously see my communication style. But it doesn't just apply to communication styles. It can also be like personality traits. I consider myself very confident, and I think this is something other people also see. So it's open because I know it and other people know it. And we will go more into feedback and disclosure in the future sections, but just to kind of lay it out there, when you take in a lot of feedback about yourself, the open self grows and the blind self shrinks. And very similarly, when you talk about yourself and reveal things or disclose things about yourself, the more the open self grows and the hidden self shrinks.
I don't know if this is too much of an abstract question to ask, but something I haven't really dived into. Can your open self decrease over time? If you start to become more introverted within yourself?
I feel like that can definitely happen. I feel like my open self maybe not shrunk, but it kind of went through a transition when I first came to college. I'm from a very small town. My graduating class was 49 people. So coming to college and moving to a real city, it was just such a large transition that I kind of, I don't know the best way to say it, receded into a shell, kind of. So I guess everything I was experiencing that was new kind of immediately went into the hidden self category instead of experiencing new things with other people, which would put them in the open self category. So I don't know if it really shrunk, but it definitely wasn't growing at the same rate that it was previously.
Or it seemed like you said it moved to a different category, that hidden self too.
Yeah. So I guess the hidden self was growing faster than the open self.
That makes sense. So the second window is blind self, and blind self is information about ourselves that others know in a group, but we may not be aware of it. And also, others may interpret information about ourselves differently than we expect. Some of these blind spots include personality traits. So, one example I would give is that I often define myself as an introvert because those are some of the qualities I've picked up about myself over time. But I have people who observe me and who are like, oh, you do really well in large group social settings. So that is just something that's been brought up that I wasn't completely aware of myself. And then I work in a board organization. So I'm not managing, but working with a lot of different women. And there are some aspects of themselves that I might call out, and they're completely blind to it. So it's really difficult to like mediate between like things that people are not aware of and things that I'm aware of, and how I can bring them that information um, in the best way. And then work environment is a huge one. So like your work speed or your efficiency, like your boss may be aware of how you work and you might not be aware of that. Um, and if any of y'all have rode public transportation, you know that there's some people who get on and who have a very unique body odor. They might not be aware of that body odor or their physical appearance. So that could be a blind spot that we might have of ourselves as well. And the blind spot is reduce for an efficient communication through seeking feedback from others. So if you're actively seeking feedback, you can reduce your blind spot. And you want to reduce your blind spot and increase self disclosure. And the more others know about you and the more you know about yourself, you're all around increasing communication, which is really good to have in almost any setting. And then my question to the group is, has someone recently told you about a blind spot that you had, so that trait or feature has moved from the blind spot to the open self?
I think, okay, so recently I was told that I'm very scattered, which is like more of like in a professional setting, so at work. So to me, I think I'm kind of organized, or I have a set schedule and I know what I want to do. But at the end of the day, I got a review that told me that I was a little scattered or all over the place, which is something I've never seen before. So that was kind of something that kind of moved into the open self.
Have you been like, since you've received that feedback, have you been productive in like changing it? Or are you just more aware of how you show up in a space?
I honestly don't know like what it is that I need to change because I didn't really know. I thought I was pretty organized, but I think it's more I'm more aware of how people see me and how I act in certain situations. So I think it's more of awareness that kind of opened up. About Brick.
Yeah, that's I mean, I guess my example isn't really like something recent, but I've had a leadership position in the marching band for the past 2 years, and we always do like leadership feedback. So the section will like give me feedback on my leadership, and I don't really have any specific examples, but every time I get that feedback, it's really interesting because a lot of people feel like they're writing things that are like so obvious about me, but then I read them and it's like, oh, I never even considered that. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to think how some things are like so obvious to other people, but you don't even know them about yourself, which is the entire concept of the blind self.
And I think like conflict can come out of that. And like that's why it's so important to receive feedback. Cause like if people have a perception of yourself that could be negative and you're not aware of that, like it could easily go to the point like where we're blaming the other person. Cause I'm like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me because I'm blind to these different traits. Um, yeah, so it's just reflecting on like conflict that can arise from it as well.
Okay, so then moving on to the third pane or the third window. The third window is the hidden self. This pane represents like information only you know of yourself, but no one else knows. It can be like personal information, which you're kind of reluctant to reveal, past experiences, feelings, secrets, etc. But we kind of keep some of these feelings and informations private because it can affect like the relationships that we have with others and ourselves, and thus having this kind of hidden self or hidden area in a space where you want to build relationships needs to be reduced or decreased when moving on throughout a relationship with someone else. So, say if I wanted a group member to judge me positively when I reveal my feelings, thoughts, and reactions, I need to reveal something of myself to find out how people will react. In a cynical way, on the other hand, if I want to keep certain information to myself so that I can manipulate or control others, which is a weird way to put it, but like it's something that you can technically do if when you have like an upper hand or something that no one else knows about you. Um, an example for me is like more like I really do like to keep to myself, but like in other spaces like in my student organization or like when I'm in public or in my community, I'm very extroverted and people can see that they see me and they think like, oh, I'm very easy to talk to and very open. But in a sense, like I still like to keep things to myself and I don't like to be too open about personal things that kind of make me me. So it seems like it. I can make it seem like it. I'm more to build those relationships, but not. I still keep a bit of a hidden self to my part to myself. And then an example I could show is kind of like I work at a hospital, and a lot of times I have people who speak about certain medical practices or things that happen in hospitals. Like these are my friends, or like in the community. I don't want to stand out or reveal my position more in a sense because like I don't need to share that part about me. I feel like it's more private. But others can say things and maybe it's not even right. It could be wrong, but I'm not going to say anything. Also, because of like, I don't want to call them out and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's more like this is private to me. No one else needs to know about it. But some disclosures and feedbacks like that influence this is pretty much more like the more you disclose about yourself or at least expose about yourself to others, the more your hidden self decreases and you go towards the open self. That being said, for feedback, someone with like a large hidden self can continue to ask questions or for feedback, but does not mean they can disclose any information about themselves. So in a sense, it can kind of go both ways, which is kind of interesting. So it's whether or not you want to reduce this hidden self or you want to keep it and but just continue to ask for feedback in a sense. It was like a weird thing.
For the three pains that we just talked about, I think it's really interesting, at least for me, to think about how like drastically different the sizes of each pain are, depending on like who I'm with. Like, I feel like with my close friends, I have like no hidden self, and it's just like all open. Um, but then with like a lot of other people, my hidden self is probably like my largest pain. Um, I feel like I just don't really have like an in between. I'm either like completely open or like completely hidden.
So what's interesting is that these models are for each individual. So it varies in sizes all over between people to people and interactions to interactions. And there's like different models that are like ideal models where like open self is very big and like hidden and unknown self are kind of small. Same with blind spots. But then there's other models where like depending on the person, you can have this really big hidden spot, but still be in a different kind of relationship with someone depending on where you are, which is kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah. So the fourth pain, and at least for me, the hardest to wrap my head around, is the unknown self. And the unknown self is like things that you don't know about yourself, nobody knows about yourself. They're either like so far in the past that they're like either like subconscious or just like completely forgotten about, or they could be things in the future that you've never experienced. And they could be things that will just like never happen. So like something that I'm pretty confident will never happen in my life is to be like a multi-billionaire. And like if I was ever in that situation, my personality would probably change like pretty drastically. But that's something that like I don't really know how it would change. No one really knows. It's probably never going to happen. Something that I have been thinking about a lot recently is I am graduating pretty soon, and I know my schedule and just like my available free time will change uh, pretty significantly after graduation. Um, right now, my school schedule is like really inconsistent, but with a like consistent work schedule, I would have more consistent free time. So I've just been thinking about how that will affect my like decisions or just my personality in general. So I'd consider that right now something in my unknown self that could become either hidden or open, or maybe even uh, it'll create some traits that are blind to me but are seen by others. And the unknown self can it can vary in size a lot. And if there's no disclosure and if you're not seeking any feedback, the unknown self can be very large.
And I definitely agree with all that. Like one aspect of the unknown self that I've picked up um, on myself is how much it can change based upon like new experiences that you are seeking out. Like I initially thought I was someone who's terrible at navigating spaces and very intimidated. Um, but like once I traveled abroad by myself, like I realized all those things weren't true and I was actually really confident and comfortable. So it can change based upon new experiences too. So start seeking out things that you would never do and you'll find a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we have. Anything else we should add or include?
I think
I
that is
think that's
it.
it. Yeah.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.